When you had that pager go off and you saw that there were multiple gunshot wounds, when did you realize the gravity of the situation, that random people were shot?
I got a call from the Chief of Critical Care alerting me to the fact that a code orange had been called in the hospital. And it was then that it started sinking in that something catastrophic had happened in the city.
You've gone for dinner on the Danforth with your family. You've told me you had ice cream on the Danforth. What was that like for you, that moment?
It's really very heart-wrenching and very scary. It could have been any one of us, and I think that is what's so chilling.
How did you even focus on what you were doing, knowing what was happening in the city?
You stand over your patient, you do what you have to do, and in the moment, you're not so consumed about what's happening out there. As the hours went by and the information started trickling in, I had a sense of terrible grief and a sense that a very awful, terrible wound had been inflicted on the heart of the city.
I'm sure it's not lost on you as a Muslim that the shooter was also a Muslim. We know that from the highest levels that religion was not the motive here. But when an attack happens, Muslims all around think, please don't be Muslim, please don't be Muslim. This name, please don't be Muslim. Is that what you were thinking?
It's what you say is very true. And when I did hear his name, I was so devastated. As a Muslim, I can tell you that Islam is a faith that disavows violence in all of its forms. And the millions and billions of Muslims on earth know that and practice that. Unfortunately, sometimes these sorts of acts are associated with Muslims' names, and I think that as Muslims, the rest of us have to stand up and show by example what Islam is really about.
Which is what you're doing. You're saving lives. You mentioned this specific incident being a wound on the city. We've seen an increase in gun violence. You are the only trauma center in the middle of downtown. What has it been like for you in the OR?
For sure, we've seen an increase in gun violence in the city and around the city. It's been horrible in our operating rooms to see the loss of life of generally young people. And I think that has been a bit of a canary in a coal mine. We generally see these terrible violent crimes not associated with public places and ordinary citizens and random violence.
Do you think our city's changed?
I think our city is changing. But I think it's an opportunity to consider which direction we want our city to go and carve our own unique path and be a place for where our citizens are safe and feel safe.
Do you feel safe?
Certainly it's changed the way I think about things, and it's changed it's interesting because I have a young daughter, and she was asking me to go out the other evening around 8 o'clock in our neighborhood. And I had to pause and I had to stop myself from saying no. But it's the first time in a long time that I've had that reaction. But I think we have to go on living our lives, but then use our voices to make sure the city grows into being the city that we all want to live in.